The golden sunlight gleamed on the amber liquid. Dante's birthday present rested unopened on my kitchen counter. A bottle of premium whiskey that I knew I would never open. 4 years without a drink. Following doctors' strict advice after my stroke. So I did what seemed appropriate and passed it to Henry, my son's father-in-law. By nightfall, Henry was battling for survival in the intensive care unit. That is when I learned the bottle was not merely a present. It was a lethal tool. Have you ever gotten a gift that stirred unease within you at times? Our inner voice alerts us to unseen threats. Share in the comments the oddest or most disturbing gift you have ever received. And did your intuition prove correct? October 18th. My 65th birthday dawned like any ordinary day in Chicago. Cool breeze, vibrant maple leaves swirling beyond my kitchen window, and the profound quiet that accompanies solitary living. I had risen at 5:00 a.m., a remnant from my factory job days, preparing coffee potent enough to rouse anyone. The parcel waited on my doorstep as if it had lingered overnight. No sign of a delivery vehicle, no one nearby to inquire about. Just a plain cardboard container, labeled only with my name in capital letters. Dante Harris. Nothing else. Within, cradled in protective foam, lay a bottle likely worth more than my weekly shopping expenses, Harrington's Reserve Whiskey. The type with a small eagle emblem on the cap. Exclusive release, the tag proclaimed. The sort of liquor reserved for milestones or to captivate someone special. But it was the note that halted me. Nestled beside the bottle was a tiny white envelope, my name inscribed in those identical capital letters. I opened it gently, as one does with fragile items. Happy birthday, penned in green ink, no signer, no identifier, merely 2 words in script that I nearly identified. Nearly. The angle mirrored my son Mike's precisely. The strokes were equally bold. Yet there was an unnatural quality, as if the writer aimed to conceal their true style, or perhaps strained to appear altered. I placed the note on the counter alongside the bottle and gazed at them both. Mike and I had not communicated in nearly 3 years, not since our dispute over his escalating loans and my refusal to rescue him once more. 3 years of quiet that had become so familiar, I no longer anticipated a shift. The whiskey was exquisite, truly. The kind of offering that demonstrated consideration, cost, and attention. But observing it merely evoked why I could not partake. 4 years prior, after my stroke, Dr. Patterson had been unequivocal about my altered existence. No liquor, without exception. The pills I consumed each day clashed badly with alcohol, and my weakened body could not endure the strain. That is when Henry came to mind. Henry Wilson, Mike's father-in-law, residing alone since his wife Linda departed last autumn. Henry had always treated me kindly, even amid the harshest family strains. He had worked as a mechanic for 35 years, possessed tales that could provoke laughter until it ached. And he truly valued fine liquor. Beyond that, he had felt isolated since Linda's passing, and I knew he would cherish not only the whiskey, but the sentiment it carried. The choice seemed correct. If this enigmatic offering was destined to remain sealed in my home, acting solely as a symbol of what I could not possess, then why keep it? Henry would value it appropriately, perhaps share it with companions, accord it the honor it merited. 15 minutes later, I was in my car with the whiskey secured in the front seat. Navigating through the neighborhoods toward Henry's residence on Oak Avenue, the morning rays tinted everything warm, as October illumination does in Illinois, rendering even the mundane remarkable. I found myself singing softly to a classic rock tune on the radio, sensing more buoyant than in months. Occasionally, unforeseen presents enter your existence precisely when required. I reflected, not necessarily for yourself, but to reaffirm that you can still bestow happiness on others. Henry's home appeared ahead, a simple bungalow with a tidy lawn and a stars and stripes banner on the veranda. I spotted his outline through the kitchen pane, likely sipping his morning brew, much like I had done shortly before. I had no inkling I was on the verge of altering both our destinies irreversibly. Henry's expression brightened upon opening the door, as it invariably did in my presence. Even after 3 years of estrangement between Mike and me, Henry had never allowed that to taint our bond. "Dante, what brings you here so early?" He moved aside, inviting me in with the innate warmth that rendered him excellent companionship. "Happy birthday to me," I replied, lifting the whiskey. "Received this as a present, but you know I cannot indulge anymore. Figured you might treasure it more than my pantry shelf would." His gaze expanded as he beheld the bottle. Henry understood his spirits, having amassed high-end selections long before I grasped the distinction between whiskey and rum. He cradled the Harringtons as if it were fragile glass. "Dante, this is exceptional. Are you certain you wish to part with it?" He rotated the bottle meticulously, scrutinizing the label, the resin closure, the tiny eagle perched above. "This likely costs more than my utility payment. That is precisely why it belongs with someone who will savor it rightly," I stated, easing into the welcoming ambiance of his kitchen. The space still carried Linda's tea aroma, still displayed her porcelain hens along the ledge. Moreover, what is friendship for? Henry served us both coffee from the ever-brewing pot on his counter. His grip was firm, still robust despite his 68 years, still bearing the scars from decades of mechanical labor. "You know, I was just reminiscing about Linda this morning," he mentioned, positioning himself opposite me at the modest kitchen table. "She always claimed the finest gifts are those you distribute. This whiskey, it is the sort she would have reserved for an event that never arrived. So do not reserve it," I advised. "Make this evening the event." He grinned, that authentic kindness that had made him a fine father-in-law, even when family matters grew tangled. "You know what I believe I will? I have that fresh novel I have intended to read, and fall nights are ideal for tasting something this refined." We conversed for another 15 minutes about everyday matters. His yard, my recent medical checkup, the Bears' underwhelming performance. Standard dialogue between two men who had discovered camaraderie despite the chaotic situations that linked us. When I rose to depart, Henry escorted me to the entrance, still clutching the whiskey like a prize. "Thank you, Dante. Truly. It has been too still here since—" He left the thought incomplete. He did not need to finish. We both understood how emptiness could pervade a home after losing a loved one. "Savor it," I urged, truly meaning it, "and contact me tomorrow. Inform me of its flavor." "I will," he vowed, already inspecting the bottle once more. "I am considering opening it around 7, perhaps enjoy a sip with supper. This merits proper appreciation." Driving back, I experienced that unique contentment from performing a good deed. Henry would relish that whiskey in manners I never could. He would discern the artistry, comprehend the nuance, maybe even offer a portion to a visitor who dropped in. The radio hummed gently as I traversed the known roads to my residence. The October sun ascended higher, dissipating the early coolness, vowing one of those flawless Illinois days that let you overlook winter's approach. I had no means of foreseeing that by evening, Henry would be struggling for his existence. The telephone's piercing tone sliced through my slumber like a knife. I groped for it in the shadows, peering at the time. 1:12 a.m. Nothing positive occurs at 1:12 in the morning. "Hello?" My tone emerged coarse, laden with disrupted rest. "Dante, Dante, it is Emily." Henry's daughter sounded as if she were suffocating. Something is terribly amiss with Dad. I bolted upright, my pulse exhibiting that erratic skip it occasionally did under pressure. What occurred? "He cannot cease vomiting. He is scorching with fever, yet trembling as if chilled. His words are garbled, and her tone fractured. Dante, I believe he is perishing. Where are you?" We are at Chicago Memorial. The emergency vehicle just delivered him. He was on his kitchen floor when I discovered him. I went to verify because he ignored his phone earlier, and she wept. There was sickness everywhere. He could scarcely utter his name. I was already donning attire, balancing the phone on my shoulder. I am heading there. How long since this began, I do not know. Perhaps 90 minutes. 2 hours. He was okay when I phoned him at mealtime. We discussed his day, routine topics. Then when I attempted calling around 9:45, he did not respond. I grew concerned and drove over. The journey to Chicago Memorial seemed eternal rather than 25 minutes. Each stoplight an infinity. Each curve a prompt that Henry was contending with something beyond my aid. I kept recalling how delighted he appeared holding that whiskey bottle, how he had pledged to relish it correctly. The hospital urgent care hummed with the managed turmoil of late-night health crises. I located Emily in the lounge area, her cheeks marked with tears, her fingers quivering as she clutched a disposable coffee mug. Any updates? I inquired, seating myself beside her on the rigid vinyl seats. They are still conducting examinations. They cleared his stomach, extracted much fluid. The physician stated his signs resemble some form of acute toxicity, but they do not yet identify the source. Through the narrow pane in the urgent care doors, I could observe Henry on a medical bed encircled by devices and personnel. Tubes fed into both limbs. Screens emitted urgent tones, and his complexion appeared ashen beneath the stark overhead lights. What did he consume today? Did he reference anything odd? Merely his usual fare. Cereal for breakfast. A wrap for lunch. He was thrilled about. Emily hesitated, dabbing her eyes. He was thrilled about sampling that whiskey you provided. He contacted me around 6, said he planned to have a portion with his meal. My gut plummeted. The whiskey, the nameless offering, the coincidence. Doctor. Lisa Park emerged, her uniform creased from an extended duty, her demeanor solemn. Are you relatives? I am a dear companion, I replied. This is his daughter. Emily, how is he, Mr.? Wilson is in grave state. His system displays indications of extreme poisonous contact. We are exerting all efforts to steady him, but the forthcoming hours are vital. Poisonous contact. Emily's tone was hardly audible. His indications imply he swallowed something extremely harmful. We are performing thorough analyses to pinpoint the material. Meanwhile, we require details on all he ingested in the past 10 hours. I sensed the phrases forming in my throat prior to halting them. Doctor, he consumed some whiskey tonight. Whiskey I presented to him as a gift. Doctor, I suspect the whiskey could be the issue. Doctor. Park pivoted back to me, her focus intensifying. What prompts that statement? It was unidentified. Placed on my step this morning without sender details. No clarification. Just a note saying happy birthday in script I nearly recognized but could not fully identify. Emily regarded me with escalating distress. You believe someone tainted the whiskey? I believe someone intended for me to consume it. I murmured, I only offered it to your father because I cannot have liquor anymore. Doctor. Park nodded sternly. We will need to examine the leftover whiskey promptly. Emily, can you guide us to your father's residence to retrieve the bottle? Certainly, Emily whispered. I am notifying the authorities, I declared, retrieving my device. The emergency dispatcher was proficient. Potential toxicity incident at Chicago Memorial Hospital. Unnamed present. Victim in severe condition. They would dispatch an investigator immediately. Detective Anna Lee arrived 25 minutes later, navigating the urgent care with subdued command. Late 40s, keen gaze, clad in a rumpled jacket implying she had been summoned from rest. Mr. Harris, I am Detective Lee. Describe this whiskey, I recounted all swiftly. The container on my step, the costly bottle, the nameless note with acquainted yet somehow incorrect script. How I had bestowed it upon Henry due to my health regimen barring drinking. This script, Detective Lee noted, pen ready over her pad. You mentioned it appeared known, like an individual I recognized, but attempting to write atypically, masked, perhaps. Any notion who might desire to injure you? The inquiry I had feared. My son and I have not conversed in nearly 3 years. We clashed over his betting obligations. But I cannot fathom Mike would genuinely. Mike Harris. He is kin to Mr. Wilson. He is wed to Emily, I indicated, motioning toward Henry's daughter. Detective Lee's pen halted. Would your son be aware of your health limitations that prohibit alcohol? No, I murmured softly. I never informed him of the stroke. We were not communicating when it transpired, and I did not wish him to assume I sought his compassion or coerce him into reconciliation. Detective Lee's pen resumed. So, to his knowledge, you still partake in alcohol? To his knowledge, I would likely relish a fine bottle of whiskey. The phrases tasted sour on my tongue. Emily emitted a faint gasping noise. You think Mike attempted to poison his own father? I do not presume anything yet. Detective Lee responded calmly. But we will ascertain. Doctor. Park reemerged. Detective. Initial analyses verify an alien compound in the patient's system. Something absolutely not belonging in whiskey. How soon until you identify it? Several hours for fundamental toxicology. Possibly extended if it is uncommon. Detective Lee shut her pad and extended her contact. Mr. Harris, return home. Rest. I will require you at the precinct tomorrow for an official account, and avoid handling anything else potentially from the identical origin. As she departed, already dialing, I stared through the pane at Henry's motionless figure amid apparatuses. Someone had desired me in that bed rather than him. Someone had orchestrated my demise and packaged it as a birthday offering, relying on my consumption. They could not have foreseen I would donate it, could not have known my impaired health had eliminated alcohol 4 years earlier. The harshest aspect was realizing precisely who possessed my location, who recalled my birthday, who might consider a costly bottle of whiskey precisely the gift I would value. The harshest aspect was that it all directed toward my own son. The Chicago police station seemed chillier in daylight than in my restless thoughts. Detective Lee greeted me at 8:30 a.m. precisely, guiding me through a labyrinth of workstations to a compact questioning room that reeked of stale coffee and artificial light tension. How is Henry? She queried, positioning across from me with a new pad, still severe but steady. Emily has not departed his side. I had phoned the hospital 3 times prior to arriving. Seeking confirmation, Henry persisted in his struggle. Good. Now, let us review everything anew. Phase by phase, her pen snapped prepared. Commence with the parcel. I depicted discovering the box, the premium whiskey, the meticulous packaging. When I referenced the note, she inclined nearer. This script that seemed acquainted. Can you elaborate? Like someone striving to conceal their innate manner, overly precise, overly intentional. But the character shapes evoked Mike's writing, merely modified somehow. You would identify your son's script, even after 3 years of estrangement? Yes, she noted. Describe this rift. You referenced betting obligations. The familiar burden settled in my chest. Lakeside Casino. He continued deepening his hole, requesting funds to recover. I assisted him several times with lesser sums, but it worsened. When I ultimately declared no further, I shook my head. That is when we ceased communication. How much funds are we discussing? I do not know the complete scope. Could be hundreds of thousands, perhaps greater. He never disclosed the actual figures, merely kept asserting he required one additional opportunity to rectify all, Detective Lee inscribed consistently, "Mr. Harris, do you possess life coverage?" The query resembled plunging from an edge. "Yes, a plan I established years back upon retiring. I believe it is around $300,000. Mike is the recipient." Something altered in Detective Lee's countenance. Expert curiosity honing into clarity. "He's aware of this plan. I informed him when I initiated it 6 years ago. Desired him to know he would be provided for. And to his knowledge, you still relish whiskey. To his knowledge, a premium bottle would be the ideal birthday offering." She inscribed steadily for an instant. "We will require script specimens for contrast. The note, the envelope, all will be evaluated. You are formally probing Mike. I am probing all with incentive and access." She sealed the pad. "The whiskey is undergoing analysis for impressions and contaminants. Outcomes this afternoon. What should I do meanwhile? Exercise caution. Avoid accepting deliveries. Do not consume or imbibe anything you have not made yourself. Someone sought your demise yesterday, and they will recognize their scheme faltered. You think he will attempt anew. I think frantic individuals commit frantic acts. And $300,000 in obligation renders individuals extremely frantic." Exiting to my vehicle, I sensed the burden of surveillance, pursuit. The morning rays felt overly intense, the lot overly exposed. Somewhere, someone knew I was meant to be deceased. Someone was likely pondering why Henry Wilson was hospitalized instead of Dante Harris. And if Detective Lee was accurate about the script, about the incentive, about all indicating one dreadful path, then that someone was the child I had instructed to pedal a bike, the youth I had accompanied at his nuptials, the son who required me deceased to resolve his issues. Detective Lee's contact arrived at 2:45 that afternoon, disrupting my fourth cup of neglected coffee. Everything seemed dubious now, even items I had prepared personally. "Mr. Harris, we possess the laboratory outcomes." Her inflection bore the gravity of conclusion. Expert, cautious, the tone of someone poised to transform all. "What did they discover?" "Strychnine. Potently concentrated. Blended straight into the whiskey. Sufficient to slay a robust adult within hours." The term struck me like a tangible impact. Strychnine. I had encountered it in reports before. Knew it was fatal. But linking it to that bottle caused my hands to tremble. "How definite are you?" 100%. The laboratory executed multiple evaluations. This was not incidental. "Mr. Harris, someone deliberately desired you deceased." I collapsed into my kitchen seat. Henry is going to endure this. There is no remedy for strychnine, but he received care swiftly and did not ingest the complete amount. The next 36 hours are crucial, but his prospects are favorable. What transpires now? This evolves into attempted homicide. We will need more comprehensive accounts, and we will be questioning anyone with possible incentive or entry, including Mike, particularly Mike. She hesitated. "Mr. Harris, I need you to consider anyone else who might know your location, your habits, who might gain from your demise." After she disconnected, I gazed at my device. Someone had acquired strychnine, integrated it into premium whiskey, and presented it as a birthday token. This was not spontaneity or fury. This was deliberate, premeditated slaying. The nameless script abruptly felt more ominous. Someone obscuring their innate writing because they knew I would recognize it. Someone who understood me sufficiently to deem whiskey the flawless offering. My device vibrated. Message from an unidentified sender. "Hope you savored your birthday token." Cold dread surged through me. I perused it 4 times before it registered fully. Someone knew their scheme had miscarried. Someone was mocking me for enduring. I contacted Detective Lee instantly. "I just received a message from an unidentified sender. Hope you savored your birthday token. Do not reply." Do not erase it. We are tracking that sender now. I heard her seizing keys. I am dispatching a surveillance vehicle to your residence. Do not depart. Do not open for unknowns. They are pursuing me. Someone just committed a major error. Menacing you via message provides proof we lacked. But it also signifies they are not concluded. After she disconnected, I traversed my home verifying locks, drawing shades. The whiskey bottle was absent, residing in some authority laboratory, but its essence lingered in my kitchen like a specter. Someone had invested thoughtful effort into slaying me. Now that their initial effort had miscarried, they were audacious enough to deride me about it. All the proof directed in one course. The individual who knew my location might recall my birthday, harbored economic troubles, and stood to inherit from my demise. The individual who believed I still consumed whiskey because I had concealed my health issue from him. My son was endeavoring to slay me, and now he knew his first effort had failed. The surveillance vehicle outside my residence provided sufficient bravery to initiate the contacts I had evaded for 3 years. If Mike was attempting to slay me, I needed to comprehend precisely how frantic he had become. I began with his property manager, Sam Reynolds, a former military man I had encountered at Mike's wedding. Sam had always impressed me as direct, the type of person who would offer truthful responses. Dante Harris. Have not heard from you in eons. How is retirement suiting you? Could be improved. Sam, I need to inquire about Mike. Is he maintaining his payments? The extended silence revealed all. Dante. I likely should not disclose this, but he is 4 months delinquent. Been offering justifications, vowing to update. I have been tolerant due to the family link. How much does he owe? $6,400, and that is solely rent. My gut sank. I expressed gratitude to Sam and attempted contacting Mike directly. The device rang 7 times before diverting to recording. Mike, it is Dad. We need to converse. Return my call. He did not. 3 days later, I drove to his housing complex in Evanston. His vehicle was present, but no response to my rapping. A neighbor, an older lady with gentle eyes, neared me. You seeking Mike? He has been evading everyone recently. Numerous formal-appearing individuals arriving inquiring for him. Lone pursuers. That would be my assumption. He used to be sociable, always greeted. Now he just rushes indoors as if fearful of his shadow. I attempted contacting again from his lot. This time he responded, but his tone sounded tense, distrustful. What do you desire to discuss in person? I am outside your unit. I cannot. I am occupied. Mike, I know about the rent. I know you are in difficulty. You know nothing. His tone fractured. Just depart from me. How much do you owe the casino? The quiet extended so prolonged I thought he had terminated. When he eventually spoke, his tone was scarcely audible. More than I can ever reimburse. How much? 300,000, possibly greater. I ceased tracking. The figure struck me like a tangible strike. 300,000. No surprise he was concealing from lone pursuers. No surprise he appeared like a pursued individual. Mike, we can resolve this. There are initiatives. Debt guidance. There is no resolving this. His tone erupted through the device. You think I have not attempted all? You think I have not examined every alternative? There is no escape from this pit. Dad, no escape. There is always an escape. Not for me, not any longer. The connection ended. I remained in my vehicle outside his structure, gazing at my device. 300,000 in betting debt. That sort of sum could ruin an existence, propel someone to extreme actions. That sort of debt could cause a son to view his father's life coverage as the sole resolution to an insurmountable issue. I contacted Detective Lee and informed her what I had uncovered. 300,000, she echoed. That is substantial funds. That is the sort of debt that prompts people to perform acts they never imagined capable. He sounded frantic, despairing, frantic enough to poison his own father. I reflected on Mike's tone on the device, the manner he had stated there was no escape. Perhaps God assist me. Perhaps we are going to need to summon him for interrogation. But initially, I want you to verify something. You referenced life coverage. Can you confirm the precise sum and when it was last modified that evening? I examined my coverage records with an increasing sense of fear. What I discovered validated my gravest apprehensions. But I would reserve that disclosure for tomorrow's discussion with Detective Lee. Tonight, I merely sat in my kitchen, contemplating the child who used to clamber onto my lap for evening tales, and pondering when precisely he began perceiving me as more valuable deceased than alive. The coverage records were interred in my storage drawer, beneath financial statements and service invoices I had intended to arrange. I distributed them across my kitchen surface under the intense overhead glow, fearing what I might unearth. The initial plan from 6 years ago was direct. $300,000 Mike as recipient. Standard conditions. But there was another record below, one I did not recall endorsing. Plan revision dated 9 months prior. Benefit elevated to $600,000. My endorsement was at the base. But something seemed amiss about it. The characters resembled mine, but they were overly meticulous, overly purposeful, like someone had rehearsed inscribing my name until perfected. I contrasted it to my endorsement on other records. The variance was subtle but indisputable. This was not my script. My fingers trembled as I grasped for my device to contact Detective Lee. I uncovered something. I stated when she responded, "My life coverage was raised to $600,000 months ago. I never sanctioned that alteration. Are you sure the endorsement appears like mine? But it is not. Someone falsified it. Who would have entry to your private data identification number? Plan specifics. Endorsement examples." The response weighed heavily in my chest. Mike is my son. He has had entry to my private records over the years. Financial reports, account summaries, coverage papers. When we were still communicating, I entrusted him with that data. We are going to need those records as proof. Can you deliver them to the precinct? I will be there in 90 minutes. As I assembled the papers, my device vibrated with another message from the unidentified sender. You cannot conceal eternally. This time, I did not contact Detective Lee promptly. I gazed at the communication, experiencing the burden of being pursued by my own son. He had falsified my endorsement to elevate my life coverage, then attempted to slay me to claim it. When that miscarried, he was mocking me, menacing me. The child I had taught to pedal a bike had transformed into someone I did not identify. At the police precinct, Detective Lee inspected the coverage records with an enlarger. "This is unquestionably falsification," she declared. "The endorsement is similar, but there are discrepancies in the force and continuity. We will have our script specialist verify it. So now you have incentive and approach. We have a robust case developing. 300,000 in betting debt. Falsified records increasing your life coverage. Strychnine and the whiskey menacing messages." She glanced up at me. "Mr. Harris, we're going to detain your son." The phrases I had both anticipated and feared. "When tomorrow dawn, we will collect him at his unit. I want you somewhere secure when that occurs. Do you have kin you can reside with? Henry is still hospitalized. Emily is with him. I have no one else. Then we will maintain the surveillance vehicle outside your residence until Mike is detained." Driving home, I contemplated the final ordinary dialogue Mike and I had exchanged. It was about football, I believe, or perhaps the climate. Something commonplace, unmemorable. If I had known it would be our ultimate genuine conversation as father and son, I would have uttered something distinct. I would have told him I loved him, even amid errors. I would have told him there was always another path, always optimism, always an opportunity to recommence. But it was too delayed for that now. Tomorrow, my son would be detained for attempting to murder me, and the harshest part was knowing that he probably merited it. Detective Lee contacted at 5:30 a.m., her tone keen with intent. "We are proceeding on your son today. I desired you to know prior to it transpires. I had been alert since 3, gazing at the roof, thinking about rainstorms, and a young boy who used to seek solace in my embrace. What is the strategy convening with Judge Thompson in 90 minutes for the exploration warrant, with the falsified coverage records, strychnine menacing texts, and betting debts? We have reasonable grounds." 90 minutes later, she contacted again. "We possess the warrant. Judge Thompson approved after examining all the proof. I am gathering the group now." "What sort of group?" "Officer Ramirez will direct the exploration. 18 years expertise in proof gathering. Officer Davis manages digital analysis, computers, devices, online conduct. If Mike investigated strychnine or acquired it digitally, we will uncover it." My gut constricted. When 9:00 a.m., "We are convening at the precinct first to synchronize. Dante, I need you to remain distant from his unit. Do not pass by. Do not attempt to observe what is occurring. What if he flees? We will have reserve units. This is a major detention for attempted homicide. He is not departing from this." After she disconnected, I sat with neglected coffee, tallying the hours. At 9:00 a.m., my son would be restrained. Authorities would probe his existence for proof he attempted to slay me. Part of me desired to alert him, but I knew that would render me involved in his offenses. At 8:45, Detective Lee contacted again. "Departing now. Ramirez has the warrant. Davis has the analysis tools. Reserve units are prepared. Be cautious. We will. I will contact when it is concluded." 9:00 a.m. arrived and passed. 9:20, 9:40. At 10:05, my device vibrated with a message from the unidentified sender. "They are here." My blood froze. Mike was messaging me while authorities were at his entrance. 40 seconds later, "This is not concluded." Then quiet. I gazed at my device, awaiting Detective Lee to contact, awaiting to hear my son was detained, awaiting for this ordeal to advance toward its unavoidable end in a tribunal where I would bear witness against the child I had once taught to pedal a bike. The child who had matured into a man frantic enough to poison his own father. Detective Lee's contact arrived at 10:50, her tone keen with restrained fulfillment. "We secured him. Mike is detained." I clutched the device firmer. "What did you uncover?" Officer Davis struck gold on his computer. Navigation records displaying inquiries for strychnine derivation from certain plants, fatal quantity computations, and undetectable toxin techniques. The inquiries commenced 4 weeks prior to your birthday. My gut plummeted. 4 weeks of orchestrating my slaying. "There is more," Detective Lee proceeded. "Officer Ramirez discovered a journal packed with script rehearsal, sheets of someone attempting to replicate your endorsement, rehearsing capital letters, laboring on masking their innate writing." The vision seared in my mind. Mike at his kitchen surface, systematically rehearsing my endorsement, readying to falsify records that would benefit from my demise. How did he respond when you detained him? Utter quiet except for requesting counsel. Officer Ramirez recited his entitlements, restrained him, and we conveyed him central. No opposition, but no collaboration either. What accusations? Attempted homicide in the primary level. The prosecutor will probably append deceit for the coverage falsification and unlawful menacing for the messages. This is grave. Dante, lifetime imprisonment grave. After she disconnected, I contacted Emily at the hospital. "Dante, I heard the authorities contacted to notify us about Mike's detention. Is it truly accurate? The proof is quite evident. How do I inform Dad that his son-in-law attempted to slay you both? Concentrate on Henry's recuperation first." How is he far improved? The physicians say he will achieve complete recuperation. But Dante, what occurs to our family now, the children scarcely know their grandfather. And now their father is incarcerated for attempting to murder him. I had no response for that. How do you reconstruct a family after something like this? That night, I drove to the hospital. Henry was upright, looking more like himself, though still pallid and weary. Dante, he said when I entered, Emily told me all. I cannot comprehend it. I am sorry you were pulled into this. Henry, do not apologize. You had no means of knowing. He examined my face. How are you managing? I keep contemplating the child he used to be. When did he become someone capable of this? Desperation alters people. 300,000 in debt. That is sufficient to make anyone contemplate dreadful things, but not everyone would actually perform it. Henry nodded gradually. Indeed, not everyone would cross that boundary. We sat in easy quiet for a period. Two men who had endured something that should have slain us both. The harshest part, I said eventually, is knowing he computed precisely how much toxin it would require to slay me. He investigated my weight, my age, my health conditions I did not even know he knew about. He did not know about your health condition. Though, that is what preserved you. That is what preserved you. I amended. I was never the target who was supposed to endure this. Driving home from the hospital, I contemplated the journal Detective Lee had depicted. Sheets and sheets of Mike rehearsing to falsify my endorsement. The systematic readiness, the frigid computation. My son had not just attempted to slay me in an instant of desperation. He had orchestrated it meticulously, investigated it comprehensively, and implemented it with accuracy. The sole thing he had not orchestrated for was a father who would donate a gift he could not utilize himself. Detective Lee contacted me 3 days after Mike's detention. Dante, we need to question Emily. We uncovered messages between her and Mike debating resolutions to their financial issues, allusions to coverage. She may have known more than she has confessed. My heart plunged. You think Emily was implicated. I think she is trapped between shielding her spouse and her father. We will discover tomorrow. 90 minutes later, Emily contacted, her tone quivering. Dante, the authorities want to question me. They think I knew about Mike's scheme. Did you? The quiet extended infinitely. Emily Mike kept discovering a way to obtain coverage funds, she murmured. He said it would resolve all, that no one would suffer injury. I thought he meant deceit, not slaying. When did you begin suspecting when Dad became ill? When you referenced the whiskey, the timing, Mike's odd conduct, the way he kept inquiring if you had sampled it yet. She wept. I should have spoken sooner. What are you going to do, Detective Lee said, if I assist? Tell them all. They might not accuse me as an accomplice. If I do not, she hesitated. My children could lose both parents. But bearing witness means dispatching my spouse to incarceration. I know. Her tone strengthened. But Mike ceased being my spouse when he placed toxin in that bottle. The man I wed would not have attempted to slay his own father. This will not be simple. Dad nearly perished. Dante. He nearly perished because I was too frightened to confront what I suspected. I will not repeat that error. The next morning, Detective Lee contacted with an update. Emily arrived voluntarily. She is disclosing all discussions about the coverage funds, Mike's research on your daily patterns, his growing desperation about the debts. How much did she know enough to be dubious? Not enough to avert it. She thought Mike was orchestrating coverage deceit, not slaying. When she realized the reality, she was too scared to act. Will you accuse her? The prosecutor is assessing her assistance. If she bears witness truthfully at proceeding, she will likely face nominal accusations, probably supervision and public duty. And Mike, with Emily's testimony, we have a firmer case. She can bear witness about his mindset. his economic desperation, his knowledge of your coverage plan. It helps establish forethought. That night, Emily contacted me one more time. I wanted you to know I am going to bear witness against Mike. For Dad. For you. For what is right. I know this is difficult. The most difficult part is explaining to my children why Daddy tried to hurt Grandpa Dante and Grandpa Henry. But they deserve the truth, even if it is unpleasant. Tomorrow, the case against my son would strengthen, and it would be his own wife supplying the evidence. Detective Lee's contact came with news that altered all. Emily's complete admission is ruinous for Mike's case. She confessed knowing about the whiskey from the start. Knowing what precisely? Mike told her he was sending you a birthday surprise that would solve their money problems permanently. He said it would make you reliant on them and persuade you to assist with their debts. She believed that. She says Mike convinced her it would just make you ill enough to require their care, not slay you. When Henry got poisoned instead, Mike called her in panic, saying, "The wrong person consumed it." My blood chilled. So, he knew Henry was perishing because of his scheme. Yes, and instead of summoning aid, he told Emily to remain silent and hope for the best. That is when she realized the true extent of what they had done. What is her arrangement with the prosecutor accomplice after the fact? 4 years supervision, public duty, no confinement if she bears witness fully. That night, Emily contacted me one final time. "Dante, I need to tell you something Mike said when he realized you had given the whiskey away." What he said. Now we will never escape this chaos. The old man was supposed to consume it himself. He was not upset that someone suffered. He was furious that his scheme failed. The coldness in those words struck me like a tangible blow. "There is more," Emily continued. "Mike had been rehearsing your endorsement for months, not weeks. He showed me pages of rehearsal sheets, proud of how well he could falsify your name. He called it preparation for our future security. How long had he been orchestrating this? Since last Thanksgiving, when you did not assist with the casino debt. He said you were hoarding money while your own son endured, that you merited what was approaching, and you went along with it. I was frightened. Dante. Frightened of losing our home. Frightened of what the casino individuals would do to Mike. I convinced myself he was just speaking, that he would never actually proceed with it. But when the whiskey arrived, I knew deep inside it was not just speech anymore, and I did nothing to halt it. Her tone broke entirely. "Tomorrow, I will bear witness that my spouse spent months orchestrating to murder his father, that he falsified documents to profit from it, and that when an innocent man nearly perished instead, his only concern was that his scheme had failed. That takes bravery. Emily, no. Dante. Bravery would have been halting him before Henry ended up in the hospital. This is just me finally doing what I should have done months ago." After she disconnected, I realized the full scope of Mike's betrayal. This was not desperation or a moment of frailty. This was months of calculated orchestrating, rehearsal, and preparation to murder his own father. And his wife would be the one to tell the world exactly how cold-blooded it had been. 4 weeks before proceeding, District Attorney Susan Patel called to prepare me. "Mr. Harris, bearing witness against your son will not be easy. The defense will attempt to portray you as an uncaring father who drove Mike to desperation. What do you need from me? Complete honesty about your relationship. The money issues. Why you stopped helping him. The jury needs to understand that setting boundaries does not justify murder." She handed me a thick evidence folder. "Review these, but prepare yourself. Mike's handwriting practice, his internet searches. It is going to be painful." That night, I spread the documents across my kitchen table. The images of Mike's journal were devastating. pages of my forged signature becoming more precise with each try. In the margins, coverage call Tuesday. Check Dad's habits, certain plants. How many the internet search history told the entire story. November, life coverage plans. December, toxin extraction. January, undetectable poisons. February, lethal dosage by body mass. 5 months of researching how to slay me. Henry was discharged from the hospital 3 days later. I drove him home. "You holding up?" he asked. "Some days better than others. I keep thinking about that whiskey. How good it tasted before," he shrugged. "But you saved my life by giving it to me instead of drinking it yourself." A week before proceeding, Detective Lee called. "Mike's counsel wants a plea arrangement. Second-degree homicide. 30 years with parole option. What is the alternative? Proceeding could get him life without release if we succeed. If we fail, he walks free. We proceed to proceeding." The night before jury selection, Emily called. "Dante, I am ready to bear witness. It will be hard, but I am ready." "How are you managing?" Frightened, but relieved. "The truth is finally emerging." She hesitated. "The kids are staying with my sister during the proceeding. They know Daddy made a very bad choice." After she disconnected, I sat on my veranda, thinking about the boy who used to ask me endless questions about everything. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who had spent months planning my death. Tomorrow, a jury would hear how my son methodically researched murder methods, practiced forging my signature, and showed no remorse when an innocent man nearly died in my place. Justice was approaching, but it would destroy what remained of our family. The stars appeared in the darkening sky, and I wondered if Mike would see them from his jail cell, if he ever thought about the father he had tried to kill, or the man who had suffered in my place. Tomorrow, the world would know exactly what my son had become. The courtroom felt smaller than I had anticipated. I sat behind the prosecution table, watching 12 strangers who would decide my son's fate. Mike entered in an orange uniform, looking slimmer. Our eyes met briefly. His were cold, calculating. He looked away first. District Attorney Patel opened with devastating clarity. "This is a case about premeditated murder. For 5 months, the defendant researched poisons, practiced forging signatures, and planned his father's death. The only thing he did not plan for was his father giving the poisoned whiskey away." She walked the jury through the timeline. Mike's debts, the forged coverage increase, the toxin research, the whiskey delivery. Each piece built an undeniable picture of calculated murder. Defense Attorney Evans painted Mike as desperate, not murderous. My client made terrible choices, but desperation is not premeditation. The prosecution's case was methodical. Detective Lee testified about the computer searches and forged documents. The handwriting expert confirmed Mike had practiced my signature extensively. The forensic expert explained strychnine poisoning in clinical detail. Then Emily took the stand. She looked fragile in her dark dress, but her voice grew stronger as she testified. "He told me he was going to send his father a birthday gift that would teach him a lesson and solve our money problems. When I asked what he meant, he said it would make Dante sick enough to need our help. Did you understand he meant to seriously harm his father? I thought he meant make him sick, not kill him. He said it would be temporary, that Dante would recover, but realize he needed family support." Her voice cracked. "When Dad nearly died, I realized Mike had lied to me about everything. The defense tried to break her testimony, but Emily held firm. I loved my husband, but I will not protect someone who nearly killed my father." When I testified, my legs felt unsteady. Dia Patel guided me through receiving the whiskey, giving it to Henry, the investigation. Do you believe your son intended to kill you? I looked at Mike, sitting motionless. The evidence speaks for itself. 5 months of planning, researching poisons, practicing my signature. That is premeditation, not desperation. The defense painted me as a cold father. Did you not abandon your son when he needed help? I helped him 3 times with gambling debts. When he came back for more money to gamble, I said no. That is responsible parenting, not grounds for murder. Henry testified about the poisoning, his voice steady, but hands shaking. I trusted that whiskey because it came from Dante. I nearly died because of that trust. The computer analyst walked through Mike's search history month by month. From life coverage plans in November to lethal strychnine dosage in February. The progression from research to planning to execution was undeniable. After 4 days of testimony, both sides gave closing arguments. The prosecution summarized the mountain of evidence. The defense pleaded for mercy. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood with the verdict. On the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. Mike's shoulders sagged slightly, but his expression remained unchanged. Emily sobbed quietly. I felt no satisfaction, just the hollow weight of a family destroyed. Justice had been served, but the cost would echo through all our lives forever. Judge Harrison called the court to order for sentencing 3 weeks after the guilty verdict. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, family members, curious onlookers drawn to the spectacle of a son who had tried to murder his father. Mike sat at the defense table in a pressed suit his attorney had provided, looking more like the young man I had raised than the hollow-eyed defendant I had seen throughout the trial. For a moment, I almost forgot what he had done. Michael Harris, Judge Harrison began, her voice carrying the weight of finality. You have been found guilty of attempted murder in the first degree, insurance fraud, and making criminal threats. Before I pass sentence, do you have anything to say? Mike stood slowly, his lawyer beside him. For the first time since his arrest, he looked directly at me. I am sorry, he said, his voice barely audible. I am sorry for what I put everyone through. It was not the apology I had hoped for. No acknowledgement of the months of planning. No recognition of Henry's suffering. No real understanding of the magnitude of his betrayal. Just empty words that felt rehearsed. Judge Harrison was not impressed either. Mr. Harris, your actions were not the result of a moment of desperation. You spent 5 months researching, planning, and executing an attempt on your father's life. You forged documents, obtained deadly poison, and showed no remorse when an innocent man nearly died in his place. She paused, letting the words settle. I hereby sentence you to 30 years in state prison without the possibility of parole for the first 18 years. You will also pay restitution for medical expenses and court costs. Mike's knees buckled slightly, but he remained standing. 30 years. He would be in his late 60s when he got out, if he ever did. Emily Harris, Judge Harrison continued. Please approach the bench. Emily stood on shaking legs, her attorney guiding her forward. She looked frail, older than her 35 years. Mrs. Harris, you have pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. While your cooperation with law enforcement has been noted, you were complicit in a plan that nearly resulted in 2 deaths. I held my breath, thinking about Emily's children waiting at home with their aunt. I sentence you to 4 years suspended sentence conditioned on successful completion of 250 hours of community service and 3 years of supervised probation. You are also ordered to undergo psychological counseling. Emily's relief was visible. She would not go to prison. Her children would not lose both parents. Additionally, Judge Harrison added, you are prohibited from any contact with Michael Harris for the duration of his incarceration. The bailiff moved toward Mike with handcuffs. As they clicked around his wrists, he looked at me one more time. This time there was something different in his eyes. Not the cold calculation I had seen before, but something that might have been genuine regret. "Dad," he said as they led him toward the door. I almost responded, almost called out to him, but the words stuck in my throat. The boy I had raised was gone. The man being led away in chains was a stranger who tried to kill me for money. Emily approached me as the courtroom emptied. "Dante, I know you probably never want to see me again, but I need you to know I am going to make sure the kids know the truth about their father. Age-appropriate truth, but truth nonetheless. They deserve that. I said they also deserve to know their grandfather. When you are ready, if you are ever ready, I would like them to have a relationship with you." I looked at this woman who had been complicit in my attempted murder, but had ultimately chosen justice over loyalty. I would like that, too. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt the weight of finality. Mike would spend the next 3 decades behind bars. Emily would rebuild her life as a single mother. Henry was recovering and would carry the scars of this betrayal forever. And I would go home to an empty house, knowing that justice had been served, but that some wounds never fully heal. 7 months after the trial, I found myself back on my porch swing, watching the same October light that had welcomed that poisoned whiskey into my life. The seasons had come full circle, but everything else had changed forever. Henry stopped by most afternoons now, usually around 3:30 when the coffee was still warm and the day was winding down. Today, he brought a chess set, something we had never done before, but had started during his recovery. "You are getting better at this," he said, moving his bishop to threaten my king. "I am learning patience," I replied, studying the board. Amazing what almost dying teaches you about taking your time. We played in comfortable silence. 2 men who had survived something that should have killed us both. Henry had made a full physical recovery, but I could see the way he sometimes paused before drinking anything. The slight hesitation that would probably never fully disappear. "Any word from Mike?" he asked, not looking up from the board. "A letter last month. He's in a medium security facility in Springfield. Says he is taking college courses, working in the library. I moved my rook. He asked if I would visit. Are you going to?" "I do not know. Part of me wants to see him to understand how the boy I raised became someone capable of—" I gestured vaguely. "But another part of me thinks that boy died a long time ago, and visiting will not bring him back." Henry nodded. "Emily brings the kids by sometimes. They are good kids. Dante, they ask about you. How are they handling everything?" "Better than you would expect. Kids are resilient. Emily has been honest with them. Age-appropriate, honest. They know their father made a terrible mistake and has to face consequences." I thought about my grandchildren growing up with the knowledge that their father had tried to murder their grandfather. What kind of burden was that to carry the oldest one? "Anna, she asked me something last week," Henry continued. "She wanted to know if people can change, if someone who does something really bad can become good again." "What did you tell her? That people can change, but they have to want to change and they have to face what they have done honestly, not make excuses or blame others." We finished the game in silence. Henry won as usual. As he packed up the chess pieces, he said, "You know what I have learned from all this?" "What is that?" "That trust is not something you give once and it lasts forever. It is something you build every day with every choice, every action. Mike broke that trust, not in one moment of desperation, but over months of calculated deception. After Henry left, I walked through my house, the same house where I had found that whiskey bottle, where I had made the decision that saved my life and nearly cost his. The place felt different now. Not empty exactly, but quieter, more thoughtful. I pulled out a piece of paper and began writing a letter I had been putting off for months. Mike, I wrote, I received your letter asking me to visit. I am not ready for that yet, and I may never be. But I want you to know that I think about the boy you used to be, and I wonder every day where I went wrong as your father. I stopped writing, staring at those words. Then I crossed them out and started over. Mike, I received your letter. I'm not ready to visit, but I want you to know that I hope prison gives you time to understand the magnitude of what you did. Not just to me, but to Henry, to Emily, to your children who will grow up knowing their father tried to commit murder. I paused again, then continued. If you truly want change, if you truly want redemption, it starts with taking full responsibility for your choices. No excuses about debt or desperation. You plan to murder your father for money. That is the truth you have to live with. I signed it simply, Dante Harris, and sealed the envelope. Tomorrow I would mail it. Tonight I would sit on this porch and remember the boy who used to catch fireflies in mason jars, who believed his father could fix anything, who never imagined that someday he would try to kill the man who taught him to ride a bicycle. Some stories do not have happy endings. Some wounds do not heal completely. But justice had been served, truth had been told, and I was still alive to watch another sunset. Some betrayal stories cut deeper than others, especially when they come from those we love most. This tale reminds us that trust is not given once. It is built daily through our choices and actions. When that trust is shattered by greed and desperation, the wounds can last a lifetime. But even in the darkest moments, protection can work in mysterious ways. Had I drunk that whiskey myself, this would be a very different story. Sometimes our own generosity, our decision to share rather than keep, acts as a shield against harm we never see coming. In times of betrayal, we must remember that all hearts and intentions are known.